So, I am 18, a freshman in college, and until recently I loved it. I especially loved the social life and the party scene. But I have discovered I have one embarrassing problem when I drink: I wet the bed. It's really humiliating for me and makes me super self-conscious. It's not as though I black out, it's something about alcohol that ruins my bladder control as I sleep. This has happened about 5 times since I got to school. The third time it happened, my roommate discovered me trying to hide the evidence. I begged her not to tell anyone and thought she was sympathetic. But last week I was eating dinner with friends and we were discussing Halloween plans, and one boy made a joke about my bedwetting. I've never been more embarrassed in my life. I sobbed for hours knowing that my whole friend group knows about my problem. I knew my roommate told them because she is literally the only one who knew. I was so angry and embarrassed I left school, and my Halloween weekend was spent food shopping with my mom. While I was home I put in a request for a roommate change because I was so mad at my roommate. She has texted me like 100 times telling me I'm being dramatic. I think I'm right to never want to talk to her again. She humiliated me in front of my friends, including the boy she knows I have a crush on. Am I the idiot for asking for a change in roommates? Everyone's the idiot here. The fact that this is just you being unable to hold your liquor, knowing that, and drinking too much anyway makes you less sympathetic here. Doing things that you know will make you wet the bed in a shared space with other people is pretty gross and inconsiderate too. If you're drinking to the point of doing it, you're probably partying pretty hard. This, along with you saying you love the party scene, means you probably are just getting wasted, despite your claims that you don't even black out, which isn't saying much by the way. Everyone has a few too many sometimes, but regularly doing stupid stuff while trashed gets annoying pretty quick. You're being dramatic and downplaying your problem at the same time. 2 things. 1. This happens to a lot more people than you seem to realize. Not on a regular basis, but it happens when you're new to drinking or when you're bad at drinking. If you're the former, shake it off, but 2. You're bad at drinking and likely always will. Below you're writing I'm super controlled, I drink less than my friends, etc. Yeah, okay, that stained mattress says otherwise. You're not cut out for it. You can keep trying and secretly wash your bed sheets every Saturday morning for the next 4 years, or you can accept your situation and stop drinking. Your roommate is the idiot for telling this, even though you never said she agreed when you begged. She also did this because she likes your crush as well, so she did the one thing that would humiliate you, but you know that you wet the bed when you drink and have done this 5 times and still drink. When it happened the second time, that should have been a light bulb moment for you to just have one and then nurse a glass of soda for the rest of the party. My 50 husband, 50, has known Paul, 55, for about 35 years. They're more acquaintances than friends, and my husband told me Paul didn't have friends at school because he offended classmates the way he spoke to them. Soon after Paul graduated, he returned to his home country. For 15 years after Paul left, we've seen Paul only a handful of times since, when my husband visited him. After my husband and I had our first child 22 years ago, we have not heard from Paul since. 3 years ago, Paul and his wife Susie, 55, along with their daughter Lily, 17, started appearing in our lives again. Paul texted my husband often to catch up and has since visited us a couple times. In 2019, Paul and his family lived in our vacation home, a few minutes from our own, for free at the courtesy of my husband, but never came over to say hello or even say thank you once during their 2-month stay. I thought this was strange, but my husband seemed happy to host Paul's family, so I didn't say anything. Paul and his family only appeared when my husband offered to take them out to dinner, but never the other way around. Since then, I've had a bad impression of Paul. During this time, Paul also mentioned a few times Lily's interest in attending university here. May 2021, Paul and Susie suddenly decide to send Lily here for high school. They asked my husband if he'd be willing to let Lily stay in our home with our 3 kids, aged 18-22, at a discounted rate compared to homestays. My husband agreed without any discussion with me or our kids. I didn't like the idea, especially with my bad impression of Paul. Our kids didn't want a stranger in our house either. In September, Lily moved into our home. At first she was polite, but quickly her personality changed. She became rude and disrespectful toward me, including disregarding simple things I've asked her not to do, such as washing her shoes in our sole laundry machine. She eats all my children's food which they buy themselves and uses their belongings without their permission. To put it simply, she treats everything in my home as though it were hers alone. In the past 2 months, she's done so much to get on my nerves that I can't include due to post limits. The last straw for me was when I prepared 3 portions of lunch for my husband and 2 of my kids and packed them in the fridge. The next morning I discovered that she ate all 3 meals overnight. I was furious. I told her parents that she must move out as soon as possible, as she's been disturbing me and my children's lives for far too long. I told them that I'd give them back their money. Her parents are angry with me, but found a new place for Lily within a week. However, since the news has been broken to Lily that she has to move, she's gone back to the mild-mannered personality she had prior to moving into my home. Her parents and the people we know are calling me the idiot since I'm kicking a teenager out of my home while she's adjusting to her new environment without her parents. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You have a DH problem. Deciding to take in his friend's daughter is a 2 yes, 1 no situation. He made the decision without even bothering to discuss it with you. OP should tell DH that they can no longer allow her to stay because he will be sleeping in the spare room if he pulls a stunt like that again, so there will be no room for her. OP needs to point out in blunt terms the true nature of this alleged friendship. It is totally one-sided, with this friend taking advantage of DH and treating DH like a mat to walk all over. Once the daughter felt comfortable, she showed you her true personality. Like father, like daughter. Let's skip over Lily and her freeloading parents really quickly though and talk about the deeper issue. Your husband allowed an entire family to sponge off of you for 2 months without discussing it with you and then decided to move a complete stranger into the home without first talking about it with you. You and he need to have a come to Jesus moment. This is not alright. You are a partner in the relationship and it's deeply concerning that he is walking all over you like this. She wasn't respectful towards any of you. She seems like a spoiled girl who lacks good manners and thinks she is entitled to everything even when it's not hers. You did the right thing kicking her out, plus you gave them back their money, so you are definitely not the idiot. She is just acting more behaved now that you kicked her out, probably for you to second guess your decision. That being said, your husband should learn to discuss things with you. Hey there. I'm having a destination wedding in July 2022. I've done some planning on where it will be and I've picked the venue as well. So, I asked some of my friends to be on my bridal party. All of them accepted happily and were excited to be part of the planning. My sister will be my maid of honor and I told her to make a group chat with all the bridesmaids and pass down my requests to them. My requests seemed reasonable at first, but then my bridesmaids started backing down one after the other. Some of my requests were that since it's a destination wedding, they'll pay for their own rooms in the same resort hotel my husband, I and our families will stay. They're also required to buy their own dresses and find their own hairstylists and makeup artists. Their hair and makeup should be the same on all of them. My maid of honor also told them how she's planning the bachelorette party, which will be a weekend getaway, and how everyone there covers their own costs. I also suggested if any of them wants to diet, I'll appreciate it, but they're not forced to, of course. I'm not strict on that request, it's just a suggestion. After my requests were made clear, I had a couple of my bridesmaids, there's 6 in total, saying that sadly they'll have to step down because they can't afford all this. They said the dresses I showed them are also too expensive. I said that I offered 2 choices for that reason, so they can pick whichever one they can afford. Both dresses are the same color, just different cuts. They said both choices are still too expensive and there's no way they can afford both a destination wedding and a destination bachelorette. They told me if they could pick a cheaper hotel or Airbnb to stay because they can't afford the one I picked, and I said that's not really a good idea because I want all my bridal party on the same place as me at all times. They said they'll step down. The next day I met with the rest of the 4 bridesmaids who remained and cried about the 2 of them stepping down. One of them told me that my requests are not possible to fulfill for everyone, so I shouldn't take it personally. I said those are regular requests any bride makes for her wedding, why am I not allowed to? She said I need to grow up and realize not everyone can afford it and it's not my business to argue about it. She said unless I can get my crap together she'll drop out too, because I don't seem understanding and I'll be a nightmare to work with. The rest of the bridesmaids comforted me and said that those who dropped out are not true supportive friends. My sister also told me to ignore them and move on. But I'm very hurt my bridal party started off with drama because of my requests. Am I the idiot? You're the idiot. You have no right to spend other folks' money so freely. Plus, you are making big asks and not helping with anything. I would have backed out of this too. Finding hair and makeup people in a destination isn't easy. How do you propose they go about doing that? And the dieting? Just no. Yes, you are 100% able to ask for these things, but they are also free to give you an answer, and that answer is no. I hope you reread your post and reevaluate your requests. You may have been saving for your wedding, or may be willing to take on some debt for your wedding. Other people are not setting aside money for weddings that aren't their own. I don't know where you live, but 63% of Americans don't have the savings to cover a $500 emergency. You're asking these women to spend a few hundred on dresses, over $100 on hair and makeup, over $1,000 on wedding travel, and some amount on a bachelorette party. You're probably expecting shower and wedding gifts too. Unless your friends are relatively wealthy, committing to more than $2,000 in wedding expenses probably feels like a lot. You're the idiot. The fact that you can't understand that not everyone is in the same financial situation as you is the sad part. You're literally telling your friends they aren't supportive if they don't drop cash on your wedding they don't have. You're allowed to want things for your wedding, but do not get pissed or hurt that some might have to pass up the opportunity because of money. Getting the other bridesmaids to side with you is also pretty low. As your sister said, move on. My fiance, 28, and I, 29, are getting married in March. My fiance has been vegan for 8 years now, and I am vegetarian, but as my fiance is the cook in our house, I mostly eat vegan. We want to have a completely vegan wedding. It makes no sense that on the day of his wedding, my fiance wouldn't be able to eat or drink half of the stuff there. We have planned it with a caterer and are really happy with our sections. Honestly, the dishes we have picked you wouldn't even notice were vegan, like bruschetta for starters. We are also doing a BBQ in the evening and intend to use Beyond Burgers as we both love them and think they have the most meat-like texture and taste. Both of our parents and siblings are obviously fine with it. A couple are vegetarian themselves and they all eat veggie or vegan a couple of times a week. We sent out invites and left a space asking for any dietary requirements for things like nut allergies. However, lots of people have put meat or meat eater in the space. We were talking to some relatives last week at a family get-together, all vaccinated and allowed in our country, and when we confirmed we weren't serving any animal products they started giving us grief for forcing them to be vegan and that we were idiots for not accommodating to their diets. It's 2 meals out of their lives, we aren't forcing anyone to change their diet, and neither me or my fiance want to have food at our wedding which we don't eat. We don't want to have to think about checking an ingredients list, we just want to enjoy ourselves. We are also paying for everything ourselves. So, are we the idiot here? Reasonable accommodations need to be made as a host for people with restrictive diets. I think everyone hosting should have at least one vegetarian option. But there is no one who can eat only meat. As you said, a lot of the food is things people would eat anyway, and they don't need meat at every meal. You aren't leaving them with food they can't eat. However, you need to be very clear in what you are serving. Beyond Burgers look like burgers, but are made of pea protein. If someone with a legume allergy saw a burger, they might think it's safe, but it isn't. If the cheesecake is soy or nut based, etc. I think you're doing the right thing asking people about allergies before, so you know what people can't have. Not the idiot. But I would recommend you get a few non-vegan friends at a tasting or two. My very wealthy cousin had a vegetarian wedding and everything was gorgeous, but it tasted awful. I remember watching person after person grabbing slices of cake and these cream puff swans that decorated it for dessert. They would take a bite and boom into the garbage a few feet away. The garbage was overflowing with food, and the sight of hundreds of pieces of cake on top with one bite missing was kind of heartbreaking to see, since I knew they had spent tens of thousands on this cake. It's your wedding. The wedding should represent the people getting married, and serving meat for the guests is not a representation of you and your partner. Maybe it's just me, but I would reply to every single person who wrote in Meat Eater and remind them that this isn't about them, and they are more than welcome to stop and get a Big Mac on the way to and from the wedding. If people are going to make a big deal out of not getting to hurt an animal at your wedding, maybe they shouldn't come. I, 26, and my husband, 27, have been married 6 years and have a toddler. Since we had her December 2019, I have more or less been the sole caretaker, a stay-at-home mom, while he works. After discussing it with him, we can no longer afford to have this setup, so I am going back to work. Granted, it is a work-from-home position. I made it clear to him that he will have to start helping me, be it around the house with chores or even cooking dinner sometimes, which I have been doing all of this alone for almost 2 years, since it is a full-time job and I will still be somewhat watching our daughter. Tonight was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I had cooked dinner and asked him to give our kid a bath so I could relax, finish eating, and have a moment alone. He started the bath and a few moments later sent me a text, so he wasn't leaving her in the tub alone, if I could come finish her bath, meaning scrub her, rinse, dry, and dress her. I ultimately give in and go finish her bath. When I finally got my turn in the shower, I was told to hurry so that I could put her to bed. He doesn't put her to bed, claiming that she likes me better. So I hurry up, get her in bed, and I am exhausted. She had been sick for the past week and I have a small cold myself. So I'm trying to go to bed and he came stumbling in the room with our 2 dogs. When I ask who will take them out in the morning because I didn't want to clean dog stuff out of the carpet, he said, "You'll be cleaning stuff out the carpet either way." I asked him what did he mean by that, and he stormed out of the room to sleep in the couch. I at that point hit the bottom of my well and can no longer sleep. I get up and fix daughter a cup of milk I know she will need later in the night. In doing so, I pass him in the living room and he asks me if I okay. I tell him no, I was mentally done and burnt out. And less to sleep, I start cleaning. While I'm cleaning, the toddler wakes up and is whining and demanding I hold her and put her back down. But when I have a meltdown, I can't stand to be touched. Not her fault, I know, so I try and put her back down, but I mentally can't. So she stays up crying. I try to console her, but I just mentally am checked out. Her crying wakes up husband and he gets pissed because it is now midnight and he tells me that I'm an idiot because I can't take care of her and he has to be awake for work at 4:30. He tells me not to even bother coming to bed before slamming the door. So, am I the idiot for not taking care of my daughter when husband had to be at work early? Not the idiot. Your husband is a total idiot for not understanding that you are burnt out, although you told him so. With saying things like that he invalidates your hard work at home and on top of that you caught a cold. Either discuss with him about splitting the chores, since it's also his child, or maybe start thinking the relationship over, although I don't think you're at that point of disagreement yet. Anyways, his behavior shows some serious dark orange flag warnings, or even red. I wish you all the well and good recovery from your cold. Your husband is failing to support both you and your daughter. He's become used to you doing all the work for so long it just doesn't seem like his responsibility. Try to have a conversation about this, but if he can't or won't make the time, focus on yourself and your daughter above all else. If that means your husband has to get his own food, so be it. Your husband is having a detrimental impact on your mental health when he should be doing the exact opposite. He may like to read this thread. I'm sure people will be far blunter than me. I am sorry you aren't getting the support needed from your husband. You are working full-time and also a parent full-time. It's normal to be tired and burned out, you are human. Normally your partner should be there to support at times like this. You did nothing wrong, you are trying your best despite being drained, and your husband isn't being supportive and not helping you. You expressed clearly being burned out, and he still did nothing to comfort or support you, he blamed you instead, and that's a huge red flag for me.